This is my video on Taric itemization in the jungle for Season 13. With all the new items and new crazy preseason stuff happening, it's best to make a video like this going over all the new stuff, new items, and to show off what Taric is actually building. We're going to keep it as fast as possible and just get right into it, right? First of all, this is not a how to build as Taric video that goes over the conceptual reasons that you would want to build one item or the other in a different situation. That is this video, which you can still find on my channel. But this is going to be strictly itemization and what items to build when, right? So runes, relatively the same as last season. PTA, Lethal Tempo, Phase Rush, and Glacial being the best runes overall. Ghost still being basically the best, with Flash sometimes working well against walls. Let's get into the items, right? Jack Show, the tank mythic taking the entire world by storm, is first up. And then we have Rod, Even Shroud, Iceborne, Gale Force, Divine, and then also Frozen Heart Rush. But once again, talking about Jack Show, let's get right into it. So Jack Show is just crazy on literally anyone, any tank, anyone who builds Ravenous, whatever. It just gives you ridiculous resist, and you use that resist to never die, and that's it. For Taric, I found the best build is to just pick up an early Catalyst, go Jack Show, and then after that finish Abyssal or Thornmail, and then all three of these items together. Really, really good because you never die, and then people around you take more damage. It's pretty effective, right? It's just extremely effective, and these are also some clips to go ahead and show off these items in action. I thought it was a nice little way to make this video a little bit more interactive, right? So you can actually see these items in action, right? Lethal Tempo coming in, you're healing as much as possible, you have high resist, and so that makes your healing more effective because you have more resist. Because you have more resist, your heal is worth more. And the tower, obviously you have so much armor that the tower is doing nothing. In a game like this where they accidentally drafted full AD, they're doing like, less than 10% of their damage is going to be AP or something else. So you can just go Frozen Heart and then Jack Show in this kind of situation, but most times you're not going to be able to build like that if they have any mages whatsoever. But as you can see, Jack Show is just going crazy in this fight, right? Clearly I'm never dying, right? As the fight continues, I have more HP than less, more realistically. So yeah, as you can see, Jack Show is just taking the game by storm, and for Taric, regardless of how they balance it, is probably still going to be viable for Taric. So I see that one being very good in the future. Next item, we got Rod of Ages. So Rod of Ages is incredibly effective because it gives you AP, it gives you HP, it gives you mana, it stacks, which means you're going to be strong in the late game, which is when Taric wants to fight anyway. And the enhanced passive is incredibly good for burning mana. And so the whole idea behind Rod of Ages builds is, how do I burn as much mana as fast as possible? Lethal Tempo, giving yourself attack speed, giving yourself extra healing powers and magic resist, giving yourself the movement speed to actually catch people so that you can use more abilities and spend more mana, right? The whole idea is survive, right? Survive and heal. So you're going to be a walking healing, just a smacking healing bot. That's it. So it doesn't do very much damage, but it heals and stays alive forever. So as you can see, yes, I have a Frozen Heart, but the Rod of Ages is healing me so much here that I can fight this Fed Fiora and just keep healing myself just very quickly by using Lethal Tempo to spend as much mana as possible and get my heals off and my resets as fast as possible, literally just until she runs out of mana. But Rod is also getting buffed at the beginning of Season 13, so it's going to be even stronger. You're going to get even more HP out of the mana spent, so when you do this, it's going to be even stronger. So I see Rod is becoming really, really good for Taric, which it already is pretty good, but it's going to be even better next patch, so that's really good. There's also the idea of you could go a mana stacking build, where the idea behind going Rod, Frozen Heart, and a tier item is that you're using the mana ratios together to stack or turn the tier item into a super item using the mana ratios. But I haven't found this to be very effective at all because you have to pick up an early tier on top of building an early Rod. And since you have to do both those things at the same time, it's not very effective to do. Simply, I haven't found this to work, but maybe if the ratios get changed, it could work, but they'd also have to like change Rise or Cassidon or something in order for that to not be like super broken on them. Anyway, next mythic or combination, Even Shroud Sunfire. So if you want to build Sunfire to clear, here's the best way to do it. Even Shroud, they stand near you, they die. Sunfire, they stand near you and they die. And Abyssal, if they stand near you, they die. So you pair that with PTA, and what do you got? You got, when people stand near you, they die. The build. It is fantastic. It's very cost effective. It clears really fast. The items are, they're cheap. It's just relatively good. It has balanced resist. It's really, really user friendly, right? It's really beginner friendly because it uses PTA, which is the easiest rune for new Taric players to use. And, you know, it's just overall very effective and very supportive as well. It does good damage while also supporting your team. It supports your team with damage that they deal and you deal and everyone deals damage and then the enemy dies. The end. It's fantastic. I'm not building this as much as some other items because I prefer my own sustain, but this is definitely the supportive tank build that I find to be very, very effective and clears much better than some other versions of our builds. So Even Shroud with this, very, very good build. Next, Iceborne. So Iceborne is, you know, it's good, right? If you remember last season going Frostfire. The problem is that when they changed Iceborne itself, they changed how the proc works, which messes with phase rush. So previously, if you landed a stun and one auto with Iceborne, it would proc because the proc was considered from the Sunfire, and since it was considered from the Sunfire, it was different than the auto attack, which meant there were 3 procs of different damage, one being from the stun as well, and that would proc phase rush. Now, because it's not like that and it's inside the auto attack, that means that it's only counted as 1 instance of damage. This means that it takes 2 auto attacks to proc on top of your stun rather than just 1, which makes it harder to proc phase rush, which is why we go this item anyway. So, you know, it's still good. It's viable. It's not like that makes it bad, but it's just, you know, I'm finding that Jack Show or Rod, for their own reasons, or a Dead Man's Plate kind of outclasses Iceborne right now, right? Because in order for you to actually catch targets, they have to get near enough for you to auto attack them in the first place, right? And if they're already near enough for you in the first place, you might as well just go Jack Show or Rod and, you know, just be effective in a different way. It's not bad. It's definitely a good item. I just haven't seen myself building it a lot. Maybe I'll experiment more with it, but for now, that's basically it, right? You're going to go Iceborne, Abyssal, and then basically whatever you want after that. All right, and then, so what I was talking about, right, it doesn't matter if you can't reach your targets to auto-attack them. That's where Gale Force comes in. It's not Troll. Trust me. Trust me, bro. Come on. Gale Force is a weird assassin engage style build that is just using it for the free dash, right? The whole point of Gale Force is to clear fast using Noon Quiver, pick up the Gale Force, and use the Gale Force as a dash to land your stun. It is so effective. You have really, really good damage. You have... You know, you have that dash, which you can use really with Glacial, and Glacial works really well with it because then you can guarantee that your stun will land. And since it will land, you just, you know, you 1v1 people out of nowhere. Your clear speed is good. The problem is you're not tanky until you pick up your tank items later. But, you know, if people are just disrespecting you, you can do this build to kind of carry a little bit. And I find it to be really good. It's really good against Invis because the Gale Force active doesn't care about if they're Invis or not. So it's just really, really effective against, you know, usually long-range glass cannons, but also invisible champions. So that's a surprisingly good item. And I was recently doing like a 20-kill challenge, so this is like a full AD crazy person build. But this would be a more realistic, like what you would actually want to build in solo queue kind of build. Would look more like this. But anyway, let's keep going. Divine Sunder. So Divine was a build that we built all the time last season. And I haven't built it a lot recently, but that's just because I've been testing new items. Divine is still good. It's not like Divine is suddenly bad. Divine is fantastic, right? You get a Sheen proc that heals you, and the more resist you have, the better it is, right? Because it increases the healing, and that just simply means, right, that, you know, you want to take Divine if you're facing high HP targets, right? Any of these Mundo, Zac, right, Cho'Gaths that you're seeing in games, like these high HP heavy tanks, going Divine is going to be incredible against them because you can just stand there and heal off of the max HP that they're building, since it heals you based on their max HP, not yours. So, like, clearly it does good damage, it has good sustain, it has good clear, right? It's best of everything, but you have to build it against heavy HP targets that you can actually auto-attack, or else it's just not going to be that effective. Still a fantastic item, right? Very, very fun to play with as well. Continuing on, we got Frozen Heart Chains. So this is a build that's not disappearing either, right? The idea that you rush Frozen Heart if they have 3 or more AD champions, and then if they have exactly 1 AP damage dealer, then you pick up an Enthemis Chains to put on that AP champion to reduce the AP damage that's being dealt. The amount of HP you get from Enthemis plus the amount of armor you get from Frozen Heart is so ridiculous against any AD comp that they just can't deal with it. You pick up whatever mythic you want after that, and then you just continue on, right? It's still good. It's not like it's bad. You still rush Frozen Heart into anything, right? Frozen Heart, this is Frozen Heart with Noon Quiver rush, right? Going Gale, but still with the Frozen Heart rush. And as you can see, right, like I have damage and I'm tanky. Other than, you know, the Gwen is shredding me, so I get a nice ulti from that Tom Kench, and I still keep going. Right, you know, I'm building damage with the Noon Quiver, but I'm still not dying, right? I'm still just alive in this fight regardless. So, oh yeah, and then the plant spawns. I was like, how do I get back to this fight? Right, so yeah, basically Frozen Heart Rush still good. When they nerf the item, it's not like the item is suddenly bad. It's just like it became 200 gold more expensive for a little bit more armor. The power spike still feels about the same. It does take a little bit more to get, but it's not really like nerfed into the ground where it's bad now. It's still a fantastic item. And just to continue on, right? So that's all the mythics and all the mainstays of the build covered. All the mythics and basically first items. So getting into some other notes, right? Catalyst versus tier, right? The argument that, you know, hey, I'm playing support Taric, and because I'm playing support Taric, there's the argument that says if you are building tier, you can only pick up a tier because the tier is 400 gold. You can't pick up Catalyst because it's 1100. I need to pick up tier and then build my support item like Locket or Shirelia's or whatever. And I disagree with that. I think it's total nonsense. I think that you might as well just go Catalyst and then either build it into Rod or sit on Catalyst and go into your support item anyway. I think that Catalyst, which is also getting buffed again next patch, is too strong for Taric to completely ignore. You have to go Catalyst. It's not like you have to, but why wouldn't you? It's so good. Like, there's no reason to not go it. I mean, I would rather have you spend, you know, 2820 to 700 gold on a Rod of Ages, and then just scale with it, which is what Taric support wants to do anyway, than spend this much on tier, and then build a, you know, a support item on top of that. That's going to be, what, 2900? So it's going to cost you more to build tier and a support item than it is to build you a Rod anyway, and the item is getting buffed. I think that you just go Rod on Taric support. That's just my opinion. There's an argument that says, you know, if the game is going to be decided in the first 15 minutes, your Rod won't scale and you need resist and other things early, fine. If you want to argue that, go nuts. But I think that Catalyst is too strong to ignore. So in all my support games, I'm going Rod of Ages, simply. The Pokemon battle in the jungle with the new jungle items. What jungle item does Taric use? He uses the blue one. It's almost always the blue one. You might have be like, oh man, I used to look at the dragons and been like, this dragon spawns first, so if this dragon spawns first, then it's like, this map might have more bushes, or there's a better chance of having more or less bushes, so you should choose a different one. Just take blue. It doesn't matter. You're slow, you want movement speed, just take the movement speed one. They nerfed green. Red isn't that useful for you because you get slows and stuns from other ways. Just use blue. That's all it comes down to. Just use blue. And so some bad items, right? Why is Radiant bad on Taric? And I'm realizing now that another item is missing I'll talk about. But Radiant is bad on Taric because of the fact that Radiant has a 60-second proc. So the item itself procs every 60 seconds that you have your ult. But if you know Taric ult is a lot longer than 60 seconds. So if you buy this item, you can't really use it very well, just because of Taric's ult cooldown. You'd have to go Ultimate Hunter and some other things to lower your ult cooldown to a ridiculous amount to actually use this item effectively. There's a lot of other champions, like even a Karma. A Karma could go like like an item that reduces the cooldown of Radiant instead, and then she could just use Radiant every single time she ults or something along those lines. Right, Taric's ult is too long to use this item, even though it's literally called Radiant Virtue and looks like it was made for Taric to use. It's not. Death's Dance still broken. It's still good, right? Armor, AD, bleed effect. You block it with your ult. It's ridiculous on Taric. Gives you armor, gives you AD. Good clear speed. You can rush it against Trundle. You can rush it even if you aren't facing Trundle. The item is just strong. Like, there's nothing to say. It's just a good item, and it's just good. That's all there is to it. Taric can build it. It's great. Heartsteel. Heartsteel is, you know, I thought Heartsteel would be really good for Taric at the beginning, but I'm realizing that it's not, just because of how hard it is for Taric to proc, because of how short range he is. It's a great item if you have the fever dream of, oh my gosh, if I could go Heartsteel, Titanic, Demonic, and then I'll just go Lethal Tempo and I'll just be a super tank that kills everything in sight and heals so much. Not really, because you can't proc Heartsteel, right? You don't have the movement to actually get to them to proc Heartsteel because you're so short range. So it's just not reliable unless you're like hard smurfing and you fight all game long. It's just not that good. And then the last item, which is not even on here, is Chem Tank. It's so bad, it's not even on this list. Chem Tank is so bad, it gives you nothing but HP, magic resist for 2800 gold. That's it. And it's like, there's other items, like you can go Abyssal Mask, you can go Force of Nature, hell, you can go Maw or a Wit's End or anything else. Then, like, Chem Tank is just one usage of one movement speed burst. In the durability patch, that means that fights are going to last longer. So if fights are lasting a super long time, then why would the initial engage from your Chem Tank be worth anything? I don't see anyone in any game building Chem Tank. So I just thought I'd mention that. And I'm going to briefly mention this stuff too. Some very small changes in leveling, just with the Q4 coming in at 9 and 10 instead of 7 and 8, because we're not having mana problems at all. Because we're not having mana problems, because there's, you know, whatever, just grab this early, right? You know, you want 2 points, you want the 4-point Q before 11 because 11 is odd, right? And so if you maxed E just blatantly and then leveled Q here, you'd be stuck on a 3-point Q for 2 levels. So you want to grab these 2 points here, finish off the E here, and then go W because you don't use the 5th point Q. It looks really weird. I know it looks really weird, but unfortunately that's what it is, in my opinion. Changes in the meta include Jax being broken. They're going to buff him or rework him. Oh my god, what's going to happen? Fiora, disgusting. Kindred, actually untouched, disgusting. Vayne, you know, like all these champions Taric is just struggling with. They're basically impossible to deal with. And there's so many champions that are just completely useless right now. I feel like most of these champions are pretty bad, other than like Mundo's pretty strong right now. I haven't really touched this, but yeah, these champions are still really weak. And need some help, other than maybe Rammus, but Taric just counters Rammus in general. So, and yeah, that's it for the season 13 items. So, hope you enjoyed. If you have any more questions, just ask in the comments, and that's about it. See ya.